very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back live and direct here on Tuesday the 11th, ready to get kick-started for Season 2 here at Flux Motorsport. I'm, of course, Murphy, bringing you the touring cars. Once again, 8 races lie ahead of us to see who will be crowned the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Champion. We're currently tracking along Pro Fubby, our current champion, as he just completes one of his practice laps and looks as though he's about to top the table here live at the Brno circuit in the beautiful region of Moravia in the Czech Republic. And welcome back. I hope that you've enjoyed what little glimpses of summer you've had so far. Hopefully plenty more on the way. And what a season we've got in store for you. I will introduce some new drivers, introduce some familiar faces from some of our other championships, and of course we've got some of the old faithful as well rejoining us for yet another touring car season. And as you can see, Pro Fubby topping out the table that time, along with one of our new guys just behind him, less than 2/10 separating them. And you can see just from the free practice times that it is going to be an absolute cracker of an event. Let's continue on and we'll get the qualifying session started. Get retired, get into the monetary box, and let's see who's going to be out on track first. Looks as though Wardy is one of the first drivers to get himself out of the pit, rejoining the Touring Car Championship in the number 65 SRT Renault Megane. It looks as though Lecky is quick out the blocks as well. That is the familiar number 2 Momo course of Lecky, just ahead of Wardy. Let's have a look. Oh, it looks as though there's a car ahead of them as well. We've got Pro Fubby also out just behind Lecky in his return in the number 55 Emochi Racing Renault Megane, but we have got a few cars just mixing it up ever so slightly. We'll have a little run through of those, but all eyes will be focused on that yellow and blue Emochi that we can just see in the background as Pro Fubby looks to continue what was a fine run of form in Season 1. Altogether, 4 wins in the season was enough to secure it on top of a full 7 out of 8 podiums. 5 of those gained via pole positions and 3 fastest laps to top it off. His stiff competition in 2nd and 3rd place in the championship last season will not be joining us this time around, so we've lost Waj and the console for this season. But we have replaced them with some rather quick drivers. You'll see some familiar faces in the form of Linga Bazinga and Snarling Bongo. Linga Bazinga, our GT1 champion last season round, and he's looking to try and stretch his legs in the front wheel drive this time around. He's going to be running in the number 25 Joaquin Renault Megane, and his compatriot in the form of Snarling Bongo running in the number 28 SRT Racing BMW 320. So we'll keep our eyes out to see a couple more BMWs out on track this season. As we focus on Ward, he looks as though he's just behind Linga Bazinga at the moment. That looks as though it is a Keen Motorsport. Let's have a quick look, see whether or not we can see him in the background. We can, of course. Just coming up into the final corner, just about to start their hot laps now. I will be keeping an eye out on the sector time, so expect this to come thick and fast in this 20-minute qualifying session. 17 minutes remain. It is quite a long lap, this Brno GP circuit. And it's one of those difficult ones without any corner names, purely numbers, 15 in total, although one of them is barely a corner. We're looking at around about 3.5 miles in total with 5.4 kilometres if you work in the metric system. And it really is a challenging track in any type of car. No matter what car class, it's always going to be pretty hot on the tyres, as it has plenty of sweeping, almost hairpin-like turns, or at least plenty of hard 90-degree long right and left-handers. So tyres across the axle will be pretty well worn come the end of this. And so far looks as though Pro Fubby is purple in Sector 1 with 31.685. Close behind though it's Dan, as we expected, 31.7, so he's only, let's see, it's 15 thousandths of a second away at the moment, so it really is quite tight. Expect that to get shorter and shorter as well as the session goes on and these drivers start to find their feet a little bit. For those of you that don't know Dan, which will be most of you actually, I think this is his debut championship within Flux Motorsport. He has done plenty of racing with us in a former life, and he is, as I'd describe him, a bit of a front-wheel drive specialist. He's known for his pace inside the Clio Cups, and he's looking to try and bring that pace along with him inside the rather beefed-up touring cars. He is running in the number 1 Momo course, the red and yellow that is currently on your screen. He's going to be one to look out for as he completes his hot lap. 2:07.201 is enough for pole position now. We have got Pro Fubby coming up a little bit shy in Sector 2, but dominating in Sector 3 by almost 2/10, and that's enough to put him into provisional pole position for now. Just 1/10 separating these two drivers at the time being. Al Axon's looking to try and turn around his misery of last season in the number 11 Air Bubbles Megane. He's currently running in 4th. He was previously 3rd. Just switched over to Snarlin Bongo, who looks as though he's making that BMW 320 work for him. He's currently on the 2nd row with that time, a 2:08.154, the best of the rest of the drivers in the 2:08s for now. Let's have a look over to Spankmeyer, see whereabouts he's at the moment. I'll bring up the track map so we can get an idea of traffic as well that's going on here. Looks as though his Sector 1 times are around about 6/10 off the pace of Pro Fubby so far, so 6/10 off the pace of the leader. As we get settled into this, let me just inform you about what you can expect coming up this week on Flux Motorsport. The GT1s will make a return. That is going to be brought to you live and direct from McToasty and DJ Redders, a new commentator pairing that we have on that. The first race, of course, beginning at 8 o'clock UK time, which is around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon if you're watching Eastern Standard Time. And race 1 kicks off with the Red Bull Ring over in Austria. Going to be a very challenging circuit for those big hunks of 90s GT cars. We then return with the American Supercar Series in the GTEs, returning once again to Daytona Road Course in the US of A. That will kick off on Friday night. That kicks off 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, around about 1 a.m. Saturday morning. If you're watching here in the UK, please just adjust to your relevant time zones. And then return of the IndyCar, 8 o'clock in Eastern Standard Time, once again around about 1 p.m. if you're watching in the American time zone, in the English time zone. They kick off at the Daytona Tri-Oval, which is going to be an absolute challenge for those mighty beasts. And unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, we have had to cancel the LMP2 Championship, the GT3 Championship and the Stock Car Championship for this season. However, we will be looking to bring you some extra events. Just keep an eye out on our social media page for any of those that might be coming up very shortly. And of course, if you aren't subscribed to our social media, that is the best place to get a hold of any news, information and going on throughout this season here at Flux Motorsport. You'll be able to find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Just hit the search and type in Flux Motorsport. Well, just over, just under 12 minutes remaining. Pro Fubby is still in pole position. Dan now trails by 2.5 tenths almost to him in second place, with Al Axon now up into third ahead of Snarlin Bongo, breaking into the 207s. Sterling Bongo, though, making that BMW work for now, just ahead of his good friend Linga Bazinga. And Lecky up in 6th place with Kov Karl just trailing behind in 7th. Green Gaming also looking to make that BMW work for him. 209.699 at the moment is enough for 8th place. And Chris, 94 M Sport, our springtime special event champion. If you didn't catch that, Chris absolutely picked up an epic win at the Nürburgring combined circuit for our Sabine Schmidt's testimonial, and he's looking to try and cement himself. Is running in the Vauxhall Astra, which definitely isn't the quickest of cars, definitely going to be held back ever so slightly on a long circuit like this, but when we start to get into the tight and twisty circuits, it really should come into its own. Porsche Man is currently running in 11th place. He's the last of our drivers to set a time. In fact, he's just dropped down into 12th as Wardy comes in into 11th place. Looks as though just struggling a little bit for pace in that middle sector. A few mistakes being made there, I think. Sector 2 letting him down by around about 2.1 seconds off the sector time of Pro Fubby that last time around. And Old Smokey yet to set a lap, so that's going to be interesting. He's got 10 minutes to get himself out on track and get something done. So we're currently having a look at Pro Fubby. That is also Al Axon. Oh, I thought it was Al Axon, I beg your pardon. It's a Monster Energy. That'll be Porsche Man just behind the current touring car champion. But let's have a look over to Spankmeyer, see what he's doing in that SRT. Looks as though he's made an improvement on his Sector 1 time. Green in Sector 1 with a 31.739. That's not too far away from the pace of the guys in pole position. See what Sector 2 will make of him. Just coming up to this rather tricky section, and it is definitely an improvement on his fastest lap delta. Doesn't look as though it's an improvement on his fastest Sector 2 though. We could see a marginal jump though. He's got around about let's see, about 4.5 tenths to make up if he wants to try and challenge Al Axon in 3rd position. Let's see what this lap can be as he comes up to the line now. It is an improvement, but it's not enough. Only a few tenths away, and he still sits around about 3 tenths away from the 3rd position of Al Axon. Switch over to Dan now. Let's see whether or not he's going to be able to make any improvements. Looks as though he might be out on an outlap, perhaps. Not too sure. Sector times haven't registered yet, so I can't be positive. Let's have a look here. No, it does look as though it's on a hot lap. Just ever so slightly slower than his best so far as we hear him bouncing off the limiter. And if you haven't caught our social media yet and you're wondering what we've got in store for the touring cars this season, let me have a quick run through the calendar for you as we watch these guys continue to get their laps set. We are, of course, tuned in for race 1 here at the Brno GP circuit, and then next week you'll be able to join us in the Red Bull Ring for the national circuit layout there over in Austria. Race 3 will take us to Imola for a little Italian double header in the form of Imola, and then followed up by the Monza GP circuit, long circuit for these low-powered touring cars. And then a bit of a change in direction. We're going over to Hockenheim National Circuit for race 5. That'll be on the 9th of June. And then Fuji Speedway's GP circuit. After that, we take ourselves from Germany all the way over to Japan for a double header there. Fuji Speedway race 6, followed by the Sekito GP for race 7. And then race 8, following on from the success of the spring special event, we're taking our touring cars over to the Nordschleife combined for the last race of the season. Always like to mix it up a little bit. Last season, should I say, we had a little fling around Monaco. This season rather, going to be taking it around the Nordschleife to see who can be king of the ring in the touring cars. So 6 minutes remain of this session though, and it looks as though Pro Fubby is going to cement himself up to a flying start for the season. Looks as though the pole position is almost his. He's got around about half a second lead now to his nearest competitor in the form of Dan. Alaxon has been able to close the gap though onto Dan. Has brought his pace up a little bit. He's now in the low 207s. Spankmeyer, meanwhile, Snarling Bongo and Linga Bazinga into the pits. I'm going to expect another lap from them by the time that this qualifying session's done. And as Dan returns into the pits, let's have a look over to Lecky. He's just about to complete a lap. He's gone green in sectors 1 and 2. This should be an improvement from the veteran, and it is. Takes him up to 4th place, and what an improvement it was. Managed to find 1.2 seconds there, Lecky, and he's now in the mid 207s. And looks as though getting out early in qualifying has definitely set him up quite well. We saw it last season. He was very late out to set his hot laps. Now it looks as though he's got his eye well and truly in. So 5.5 minutes remaining inside the session. Pro Fubby still leading this one. We can see Lecky already making some improvements on his next lap. His fuel is getting lower. His tyres will still be have plenty of meat on them. Oh, and looks as though he comes in. Maybe wants to make a final change. Maybe drop all of that fuel out for his final run. This, we'll wait and see. Keep our eye out back on to Dan. Looks as though he's still out on an outlap actually. So we'll fling over to Linga Bazinga, also out on an outlap. Let's see if we've got any hot times going on. Timing board's not indicating any improvement at the moment. Old Smokey's still in the pits. He's not going to be able to set a hot lap if this carries on. Looks as though he's going to be starting from the back of the grid and looking to try and make some inroads. Maybe keep his nose out of all trouble. Look who might be crossing the line at the moment. Plenty of drivers in the pits. So they're going to be making a final change, or we're going to see them cleaning themselves off, maybe having a bit of a comfort break before we get stuck into 45 minutes of action here. And for those of you that might be new to Flux Motorsport, let me just give you a little rundown about how we do things here. You'll notice that the tyre wear is accelerated throughout these races, so drivers will have to be extra cautious when it comes to managing their tyres, especially on a circuit like this. It's going to be pretty tough to handle. 87 degrees Fahrenheit the track temperature. We are running on the current race date, so it is currently the 11th of May here out on the simulated track. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon as well when the race begins, so just over our peak sort of heat wave. And with this particular style of circuit, tyre wear is definitely going to be a tough one to manage. May well see some pit stops, especially if drivers make contact. We are running with performance impacting damage. We don't go full hog with the damage, otherwise we've often seen carnage and shit with wheels flying everywhere and blood, guts, the absolute lot. So performance impacting damage is on, accelerated tyre wear, and we'll be running our races for 45 minutes. So this also gives the added pressure as well of managing fuel loads as well as those tyre wear. Drivers with plenty to do as well as trying to fend off their nearest competition, but it looks as though Pro Fubby has really put his best foot forward in this qualifying session. Still holds on to half a second's gap to his nearest rival. Dan is out on track, but I can't see any improvements being made. Doesn't look as though he's made any improvement in sector 1, although he could well be out on an outlap at the moment. Other drivers, looks as though Linga Bazinga has just improved on sector 2. Green sector time for Linga Bazinga this time around. Have a look what his sector 3 is. Currently sat in 7th position. He's a couple of tenths back from Snarling Bongo. So we might just see him make a little bit of a leapfrog if he has a strong sector 3. Let me know your predictions. Unfortunately not got the comments up on at the moment, but I will be loading them once we get this race underway. I will have a read through. Let me know your predictions for this race and also for the season ahead. Are we going to see another dominant performance from Pro Fubby Or are we thinking that the new boy in the form of Dan is going to really give him a run for his money? That being said, we've got some absolute veterans of the touring car class in the form of Alex and Lecky. Spankmeyer are also very handy in these cars as well. And let's not rule off the two Dutch fellas in the form of Linga Bazinga and Snarling Bongo, proving themselves as very capable drivers in other classifications, mainly the GT1s. And I race against these guys week in, week out in that GT1 classification, and let me tell you, they race hard and they race fast. Plenty of racing know-how between the two. And Pro Fubby makes an improvement on the second to last lap around if he's going to complete another one. Goes 22 thousandths of a second quicker, just stretching that gap ever more. And it really does look to be a dominant show here in the first qualifying session of Season 2 here at Flux Motorsport. Pro Fubby has got his game face on for this season, that's for sure. A warm welcome to our viewers at the moment. Can see Flatpack currently sat in a hotel checking out the touring cars as he always does. Snarling Bongo watching himself as well, it seems, on the YouTube channel, so I can say good evening to you, Snarling. Currently sat in 6th place. Make sure that YouTube stream does not distract you. The qualifying session is done. Drivers have a couple of minutes to finish the laps. Looks as though Pro Fubby is pretty much done with his. Either that or he's flashing to his fans. Let's have a look over to Snarling Bongo. On the second to last corner in that BMW. Definitely made it work for him. And for those of you that haven't seen the touring cars before, check out the start of this BMW. So long as he can get it nailed on the green light, the BMW has such an acceleration advantage compared to the other front-wheel drive cars that make up the grid. And although he's in 6th position at the moment, you might well see him challenging for first come turn 1. But that is the end of our session now. Just two drivers still out on track. Green Gaming in the BMW actually making some inroads. Got almost 0.3 of a second up on his previous best. So certainly still pushing for a hot one. Looks as though he's a little bit too far away from 8th place of Kovkarl to try and make any large impact and maybe jump a spot, but certainly making some improvements within the BMW. And comes across the final corner and he does remain in 9th place. So this is your grid for tonight's round 1 of the Brno GP inside the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. Pro Fubby with his first bonus point of the season, taking up that pole position with Dan. Was close at the very start. He's fallen around about half a second back to join him on that front row. Alaxon, best of the rest, on the second row with Lecky alongside him. Then Spankmeyer on the third row with Snarling Bongo for company in that BMW. Linga Bazinga in 7th with Kovkarl in 8th and Green Gaming in 9th. Chris M Sport in 10th position inside the Vauxhall Astra with Wardy in 11th, Porsche Man in 12th and Old Smoky not setting a time out in 13th position. So 2 minutes worth of tinker time for these drivers to set their cars up for 45 minutes of action here at the Brno GP. They'll want to get some pit strategies set up just in case they do get any damage. And also, depending on what their fuel management is like, they may also need to just put a little dash into the fuel tank as well. Let's have a little run through of the liveries that you can expect. We start off with Pro Fubby out in front in the familiar number 55 Emochi Racing Renault Megane. Dan in the number 1 Momo Corsa Renault Megane. Al Axon in his familiar number 11 Air Bubbles Renault Megane, with Lecky also in his old favourite, the number 2 Momo Corsa Renault Megane. Spankmeyer doing it in the SRT, number 66 for him. And then Snarling Bongo making his debut inside the touring cars in the number 28 SRT Racing BMW. Linga Bazinga in the number 25 Joaquin Renault Megane. And then Kovkarl in his Old Faithful, returning once again in the number 20 PCCF Renault Megane. Green Gaming returns to the Horbsner BMW 320 with Chris 94M Sport, the only one daring enough to get into that Vauxhall stroke Opel Astra. He's running in the number 35 Teen Graventech Vauxhall Astra. Wardy in his fellow teammates SRT, that is the number 65 for Wardy. Porsche Man in the Monster Energy number 86 for Porsche Man. And then Old Smoky in the number 72 Mist Engineering BMW 320. And that is your grid for today and for the upcoming season. Just waiting for the lights now, and as I say, keep your eye out for that BMW just tucked up alongside, and we are off for the beginning of the season. Looks as though it was a bit of a slow start from Dan. He loses out immediately to a Snarling Bongo who's challenging up. He moves to the left, now moves over to the right. He's going to have to try and go around the outside of Bro Fubby. Meanwhile, looks as though Lecky and Dan have been able to sneak up the inside as the BMW runs wide. So it's Bro Fubby leading to Lecky with Snarling Bongo in third. Dan pushed out there just ever so slightly wide into fourth position with Alaxon in fifth. Green Gaming has managed to jump a few places up into sixth as we see Lecky there getting very defensive with the Dutchman. Looks as though he's just managed to hold him off. Big puff of smoke, and it does look as though most of our cars are away cleanly. Got Wardy and Porsche Man currently changing places though. Wardy may well have had a bit of an issue, maybe a bit of a coming together from those two as they drop 5-6 seconds behind the rest of the pack. But door-to-door action here between the newcomers in the form of Dan and Snarling Bongo. Definitely classic touring car action there from those two. Pro Fully leads the race to Lecky with Dan in third, and Snarling Bongo fending off all sorts of action now in the form of Alaxon's going to have his go in the number 11 Air Bubbles. Right up the chuff of that Horbsner Automotive BMW. And Spankmeyer is also having a little bit of a look in Linga Bazinga, waiting in the wings behind all of this. Let's jump into the chase cam of all of these cars. In fact, we'll jump into the cockpit. You can get a good view of this line. So that is Spankmeyer ahead with Alaxon on the right hand side. Snarling Bongo moving over to the left as we go into this 90 degree lefter into the 90 degree right, and it looks as though Spankmeyer is just going to lose out here. Perhaps Linga Bazinga sending it up. He's going to be on the outside for this next corner. We can see all sorts of defensive manoeuvres going on as we go almost three abreast. It just ends up being two as Snarling Bongo closes that door. He's fighting hard to try and keep hold of that fourth position. Snarling Bongo looks as though he's going to get it done on the straight. What a fantastic start to this championship here as we complete lap one straight into lap two, and already so much action. Looks as though we've got a bit of a gap forming up after ninth place. We'll try and see what's going on there, but Pro Fubby is leading the race by 1.3 seconds to Lecky in second, with Dan slipping down about half a second back, it seems, to Lecky at the moment. Just saw a bit of action going on there between Kovkarl and I think it might have been Green Gaming. Don't think any contact, but certainly a little bit of an oversteer correction being made. So Pro Fubby continues to lead the race and continues to just stretch out a little bit of a lead. Dan, meanwhile, though, has gone purple in Sector 1, so he's definitely looking to try and find his edge again. And don't count him out just yet. Looks as though we've had a retirement from the race already in lap 2. That is a massive shame. Just trying to have a look through my list and see who that might be. Not jumping out onto the page just yet. We'll try and get a good idea about who that could be. So Pro Fubby leading the race, Dan in second, Snarling Bongo now in third. It looks as though it was a disconnection from Lecky. I was looking further down the grid, but it looks as though Lecky disconnected from second place, pushing Dan up into second, and Snarling Bongo now up into third. We continue to watch this epic battle between Linga Bazinga and Alaxon. Alaxon just trying to have a little look around the outside. He misjudges it though, and that puts him onto the gravel, allowing Kovkarl to slip on through into 6th position. Is Al going to get back on? No, it looks as though he's losing more places to now Green Gaming and Chris 94 M Sport. So Pro Fubby leading the race, and you can see already how much of a gap he's got to Dan at the moment. 2.5 seconds after the disconnection from Lecky. Lecky will be absolutely fuming over that one. Meanwhile, for the battle for third, we've got 3 drivers really close together. Snarling Bongo holding off Spankmeyer, and Linga Bazinga still very, very close indeed. Just a mistake away, it seems. Looks as though we've got big battles going on behind as well in 10th, 11th and 12th. As we go over to Old Smoky in the BMW, you can see Wardy looks as though he's got his front end a little bit bashed up, and Porsche Man just behind him in the Monster Energy Renault Megane. Old Smoky there just managing to tame that rear end of the BMW. Looks as though these 3 relatively spaced out as Wardy makes a move up the inside, it seems. Doesn't look as though he's going to be able to maintain it. As we go back over to the battle for third place, we'll keep our eye out on those positions, switching over round the back of the pack. So, battle for third with Snarling Bongo in the Horbsner Automotive BMW. In third position, Spankmeyer in the 66 SRT with Linga Bazinga not too far behind, but looks as though he's just struggling to keep onto the back end of Spankmeyer. So 5 minutes gone, 1 driver down, and lap 3 of the Brno GP. Race 1 here in the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. All action indeed, as we see Snarling Bongo now getting very defensive. We see him darting left, just trying to cover off the approach of the Renault Megane, but Spankmeyer is more than equal to it. Moves over to the inside, and that sees him up into third position. Wise head there inside the touring car, and Spankmeyer actually races Renault Clios in real life, and it's a minor adjustment, I suppose, to switch over to the front-wheel drive Renault Megane. He has got a BMW sniffing all over, and in fact he's in a bit of a Dutch sandwich here. Little bit of a lock-up on the front left, and that just allows Snarling Bongo to potentially retake third as they come around the final corner. It's going to be a bit of a drag into turn 1. Spankmeyer with the inside advantage. No, he falls back in line. And we've got Linga Bazinga now trying to pick up a slipstream from the BMW ahead of him. It's going to be all action into turn 1. Linga Bazinga up the inside. That leaves Spankmeyer trying to hold on to the outside inside for this next corner. And the door-to-door, mirror-to-mirror, these two. And there's definitely not much separating them. The veteran of Spankmeyer, followed by the newcomer of Linga Bazinga, really making an impact on his debut here in the touring cars, as we see Snarling Bongo getting a little bit wide, getting onto that artificial turf, and luckily dry race as it's expected throughout the day here at Brno. Otherwise that could have been curtains. Any form of moisture on that sort of AstroTurf and that BMW would have been spinning round 1, maybe 2 times for sure. Meanwhile, a little mistake a couple of corners ago, so Linga Bazinga just lose out a little bit of pace. That's allowed Spankmeyer to retake 4th position. These 3 cars are definitely going to be battling it out for the duration of this race, I'm pretty sure. Meanwhile, looks as though Alaxon has dropped down into 8th position from that little off that we saw him have. He's now challenging Green Gaming. In fact, he's just overtaken Green Gaming to move himself up into 7th. Kovkarl is the next target for him. He sits about 6 seconds behind, but I'll have a look at his pace and try and figure out where that will actually stick him come the end of this one. So we go over to our race leader. You can see there the gap between them. He's now got a whole lot of car lengths gap between him and Dan. We'll jump back to the battle though. You can just see in the background Snarling Bongo in 3rd. Linga Bazinga's moved up into 4th position, but Spankmeyer just moves himself up the inside, and he's going to be able to retake that one if he can hold it around the outside of the final corner. They're going to drag it out. We've got Spankmeyer with the potential draft off the BMW, and it looks as though it's just given him that little bit of an edge compared to Linga Bazinga, who now falls back in line to retake a slipstream. I'm definitely going to run out of voice if this racing carries on. We're, let's see, 8 minutes in, or into our 8th minute of action here, and it's already been non-stop. Race 1 of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship kicking off this season just as the last one ended, with door-to-door battles going on all across the grid. We've got battles going on for 3rd, 4th and 5th. We've got a battle going on down below for 7th and 8th. Looks as though Green Gaming is just able to hang on to the back of Al Axon at the moment, and Wardy looks as though he's moving his way slowly but surely up the pack. He's got Porsche Man for company in 11th place. That is another Renault Megane versus BMW battle going on. BMW definitely has a minor advantage on some of the straights on this one. Going to lose out ever so slightly when it comes into some of the corners. Front wheel drive definitely has the advantage of just being able to hammer on that throttle and drag its way out of any potential oversteer. It looks as though Snarling Bongo has really got the measure of this BMW. We see season in, season out drivers really struggling to tame the beast, and it looks as though he's doing very well with it indeed. A couple of seconds off the pace of the drivers behind him that last lap around. In fact, I think that the actual timing board up on the left hand side of your screen is complete bollocks. I've got the telemetry going on here, and it looks as though he was actually 6/10 quicker. Meanwhile, though, Kovkarl is setting his fastest laps of the race, it seems. He's gone green in Sector 1, green in Sector 2. Also, his last lap, that 2:09.552, was the quickest that he's put in so far. And we might see him making some serious inroads. Oh, maybe I've just spoken too soon. He's just absolutely collected a tyre wall, Kovkarl. Let's have a look, see if we can see any damage on the front of that car. It looks as though it's just some scuffs and scrapes. Some of the tyres can really do some damage to the front end of these touring cars, depending on which circuit we're in. But you can see how much he's been able to make up onto the back of these 3 battling cars, and he might just swoop in and be able to steal 3rd position if Snarling Bongo isn't careful. Profobi leads the race. He's got almost 4 seconds now to the 2nd place of Dan. These guys not getting much airtime as we continue to check out this constant battle. Does look as though they're just starting to fan out a little bit, and we will try and give our race leader and the trailing car a little bit of airtime. Wardy is still trying to hold off Porsche Man, it seems. Let's just have a little look at that one. I did earlier on say that it was a BMW versus a Renault Megane. I do beg your pardon, it's actually Old Smokey that's in the BMW. In the number 72 Mist, he actually finds himself in 12th position. A whole lot off the pace. Looks as though there may well have been a pit stop that I've not noticed there from Old Smokey. But Wardy and Porsche Man duking it out, Megane versus Megane. Get back to this battle for 3rd position, with Spankmeyer now in 4th and just got the slight edge over Linga Bazinga. Meanwhile, Kovkarl is ever closer to the back of this little train that we've got going on. And we're now on board inside the cockpit of Kovkarl. Drop off this interface so you can get a good view of this. We will let you know of any goings on that I've got on my telemetry screen at the moment, but let's just soak in some of this, some of the tactics that we've got. Different lines being used by all drivers. You can see Linga Bazinga there really chucking the car in hard. He's managed to maintain that speed as well as they drag themselves up the hill. I think this is the approach to turn 11, I think. And we see Kovkarl there narrowly missing that tyre wall. I beg your pardon, it was actually on the approach to turn 13. Coming out of 14 and onto the start-finish straight. Looks as though Spankmeyer up on the inside for the next corner. Linga Bazinga is going to try and go around the outside. We see Kovkarl there just having a little bit of a sniff, just to try and make his presence known, whether or not he was going to attempt a bit of a late-breaking dive bomb. We bring up the interface though, and you can see how much Kovkarl has been able to make up onto the back of this pack. And Old Smokey now into the pits. I think that's for the 2nd time. He's going to find himself miles back off the rest of these drivers. Really struggling, it seems, inside the BMW there, Old Smokey. And perhaps staying in and not setting a qualifying lap is going to bite him in the backside. So these three cars, we've got Kovkarl ahead now of Linga Bazinga, currently chasing down Spankmeyer. This has allowed Snarling Bongo to bring up around about 1.7 second lead ahead of this little pack that we've got going on. So Snarling Bongo now with a little bit of breathing room, he just needs to keep his head pretty well contained. And if you have a look on the top right hand side of your screen, you can just have a look on the graphics. That front left tyre just starting to heat up ever so slightly throughout that first sector. You'll also notice that that'll happen as well through the last sector as well as these cars continue to thrash it out. That'll be increasing that tyre wear that, remember folks, is accelerated. So you might well start to see the plateau hit towards the end of this race, and the drivers start to struggle for the crucial front end grip, especially inside these Renault Meganes. Front wheel drive cars compared to the BMWs, and that might just see Snarling Bongo extend that lead even further. Jump into the cockpit now of Linga Bazinga, so that is Kovkarl ahead with Spankmeyer now making his presence seen as Kovkarl moves up to the inside. He's not going to be able to get that one done, and we see him just getting a little bit too much of the curb. He bites it on traction, and that's going to allow Linga Bazinga to step up the inside and potentially try and drag his way out. Does look as though Kovkarl though had the benefit of that slipstream from Spankmeyer ahead, and Linga Bazinga has to fall back in line. Kovkarl now having a little look up the inside. He's going to try and late break it. It looks as though he's got it done. Great move if he can stick it, but Spankmeyer's coming right back at him. Two cars just touching mirrors, and oh, it's a bit more than a touch of mirrors. They both go off, both return back onto track. A little bit too close for comfort, and it looks as though not much has actually been lost in the way of pace. Kovkarl definitely coming off the worst, and whether or not it was a bit of a snap as they gain traction, not too sure. But Linga Bazinga now with about 3 or 4 car lengths ahead in 4th position. Drama continues here in race 1 of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. Pro Fubby is the leader, as he has been for quite a long time, although Dan is keeping in touch with him at around about that 4-second mark. And oh, huge tyre wall smash there from Spankmeyer, absolutely ate it. That might well see some front end damage, and you can see that front left on tyre now of Kovkarl is lit up now in the yellow band. That'll see it in temperatures exceeding 100 degrees and starting to accelerate those tyre wear, and also start losing a little bit of grip on that front left hand tyre. Not what you want for some of these hard right hand corners. So as the battle ensues, let's just have a little glimpse over to our race leader, and you can see there the gap that he's got to Dan running in second. Dan with a fantastic debut. I feel really guilty for not giving him more airtime. I mean, he's been able to extend a gap of 7 seconds to Snarling Bongo. He is keeping pace with Pro Fubby at the moment. Just having a little scroll through. Let's have a look who's got the fastest lap so far of the race, because there is a bonus point for the fastest lap. And it is currently Pro Fubby by 0.264 seconds. Pro Fubby setting the fastest lap with a 2:07.521 so far in this race. So let's get back to the action. Back in the battle for 4th position. Snarling Bongo, you can see, has been able to get a decent lead. Around about 12, maybe 15 car lengths now, which equates to, let's have a look here, it's about 2 seconds or so ahead of Linga Bazinga. Spankmeyer is still right on Linga Bazinga's tail though, and Kovkarl is still trying to keep track, and it looks as though we've lost another driver. Old Smokey is out of there. The BMW not working for him, very little practice in the practice session, if any, and no lap set in the qualification. Sees Old Smokey out of this race. Nil points for him. And definitely not the best start to the season that he could have wanted. So we're down to 11 drivers now. Porsche Man is at the back of that list, but he is still keeping track with Wardy, it seems. So Linga in 4th position, Spankmeyer in 5th, Kovkar in 6th. Meanwhile, Al Axon is not too far behind. If we just jump into the cockpit camera of Al Axon, you can see he's now been able to catch up after that big off that he had where he lost out a load of positions and a boatload of momentum. He's since been able to get up onto the back, and he could well be in for a 4th place finish, currently lapping about 1 second quicker than Snarling Bongo, and he's only 0.2 away from the pace of the race leader in the last lap around. So Al Axon definitely finding his form, and the drivers ahead of him are going to have to be on their A game to try and defend from him. Al with a point to prove if you didn't catch last season, season 1 of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship in 2021. Remember, you can go over to our YouTube channel. You can catch up with all of the goings on in the championships last season round. If you want to make sure that you don't miss any of our races, then be sure to hit the subscribe and hit the bell for the notifications to make sure you get a notification when we go live. But you will find plenty of content on there, especially part of Lecky's workshop, where you'll be able to find a whole boatload of car setups for Project Cars 2, just to try and help you along in your own sim racing career. And of course, if you're watching this with green eyes of envy and you fancy getting involved in this upcoming season, then all you need to do is head on over to our website, www.fluxmotorsport.com. You'll find the information on how you can join us. On the website, you'll also find other bits of information about what it is that we do and what we're all about. If you hit that link, you'll be taken over to our Discord, and if you don't have Discord installed on your device, don't worry, completely free app. It is available on all platforms. It's super simple to use as well. Hit that link and you'll be taken over to our Discord server. We just need a little bit of information from you on the welcome page, and then you'll be greeted by a member of our staff once you enter in there. Then you're just an evaluation drive away from getting on track with the rest of these drivers in whatever championship takes your fancy. Or if you just fancy racing for fun and you're fed up of the anarchy that can happen within a public lobby, then of course we do host a whole smattering of community races where we pride ourselves on our cleanliness and track etiquette. So that's the action here in race 1. We've got Al Axon still continuing to challenge. Looks as though he's right onto the back of Spankmeyer now. Linga meanwhile has been able to make up a little bit of gains ahead of the two, and Spankmeyer just takes that position back from Kovkar, it seems. Spankmeyer moves up into 5th, and that's going to allow Al Axon, if he plays his cards right, to be able to maybe get the cut on these two. He's definitely got the slipstream as Kovkar moves over to the inside. And now both switching over. Let's have a look into the chase cam of this one. Into the cockpit rather, as Al Axon makes a little move up onto the inside. He's just going to have to avoid, as we see Kovkar there cutting across the front. Bit of a risky move from Kovkar, but he did have, I suppose, his car all the way ahead of the front axle of Al Axon. Al Axon managing to stay cool, calm and collected. And he's just going to have to be patient in order to keep... or try and build upon his current race position. Currently lies in 7th place. He's got bags of pace, and it looks as though he's just managed to make a bit of a move. I think he's going to overtake Spankmeyer perhaps, as the two narrowly avoid coming together. He has got the inside line for both of these right-handers, but he is a little bit offline. He ends up having to brake a little bit early, correcting himself, and that's going to allow Spankmeyer to come back on through. Al Axon just needs to keep his patient head on, but he knows for a fact that he's letting the cars ahead of Linga and Snarling Bongo get away from him, especially as we know he's got 208 within that car and his tyre temps look pretty good. Jump on over to our leader, let's have a look. He's managed to get 5.3 seconds now ahead of 2nd place of Dan. In fact, Dan barely even in sight. You can just see him there coming around that right-hander. Pro Fubby leading the race. He looks as though he's going to be able to pick up the triple crown of points, because he is currently the fastest lap holder of this race as well. So bonus points for pole position, bonus point for the fastest lap of the race as well. And looks as though He's also going to pick up the race victory so long as he keeps it as consistent as he has. I mean, these lap times have just been right on the money. Good grouping if you're having a game of darts. 2:08 all day long from Pro Fubby, just showing what a veteran in the touring car can achieve. And let's not take anything away from Dan. Absolute newcomer to the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship, but he's also been right on the money as well in terms of consistency in those lap times, and that shows as he's built up a 10-second lead to his nearest rival of Snarling Bongo in third position. Let's get back to the action though. Let's join Kovkarl, as we can just see actually Linga Bazinga and Snarling Bongo duking it out. We'll keep on this action going on in the battle for 5th place. Kovkarl in 5th, Spankmeyer in 6th, trying to hold off Al Axon. Al Axon now with the inside line. He's a little bit offline though. He's not going to be able to take that as fast as Spankmeyer around the outside. Let's have a little wander over to Snarling Bongo and his battle with his flatmate actually. These two racing in the same room, on the same track, in the same lobby. Different cars though, as the two Dutchmen lie in 3rd and 4th position. And just because they share an apartment, don't let that conure. These two guys will go hammer and tongs to try and get the better of each other. Linga Bazinga will be desperate to try and get his first podium on his debut, and you can see the two just flashing one another, potentially flashing me in the box as well, as we know that Snarling Bongo was tuned into the stream. But two drivers definitely showing their mettle here in the debut in the touring cars. As I mentioned before the start of this race, we've seen them week in, week out in the GT1s. Snarling Bongo actually had a dreadful season last season in the GT1s, but don't let that fool you. The guy is seriously quick, and he is doing very well indeed to hold off Linga Bazinga inside that Brno Megane, especially through some of these corners. BMW will have a bit of a benefit with it being rear-wheel drive. Come the straights, it's also going to have that little bit of benefit as well in terms of tyre wear. But Linga Bazinga with 0.2 seconds of an advantage in the lap times that last lap around. And we see Spankmeyer coming into the pits. Spankmeyer, I'm assuming, getting some damage repairs. May well be a drop of fuel perhaps. In fact, no, we can see 32 litres worth of fuel, so it must be a bit of damage repair there for Spankmeyer. So that allows Al Axon to move up into 6th place, and his recovery drive does continue on. He's got less than 1 second, 0.6 of a second lead to try and make up ahead of Kovkarl. Spankmeyer has just been overtaken by Chris94 M Sport as well, who moves up into 7th position. And Spankmeyer's good mate in the form of Wardy is also potentially going to surpass him as well, depending on, in fact he does, as does Porsche Man and Green Gaming. So that damage proving very costly indeed for Spankmeyer, who moves all the way up from 5th position down into 11th, and it must have been extremely necessary to try and get that damage repaired completed. So as the race settles down, 17.5 minutes remaining on this one. We'll go over to our race leader in the form of Pro Fubby, still maintaining a 5-second lead ahead of Dan VWB in 2nd place, 5.7 seconds currently, and you can see the number 1 Momo Corsa Renault Megane just popping its little head up in the background there. Altogether 17.5 seconds lead to the BMW of Snarling Bongo. So plenty of breathing space here for Pro Fubby. Does look as though he's just eased off ever so slightly in his lap times. He's now pushing into the high 208s, early 209s, but still managing to maintain the gap. Just good racecraft here from Pro Fubby, not putting any risk into it. He knows he's got this one in the bag so long as he can maintain it for the next 16 minutes and 45 seconds. Let's get back onto that battle for 3rd though. It's still mighty close between Snarling Bongo and Linga Bazinga. Two have been battling it out, and that's allowed Kovkarl and Al Axon to actually get a little bit closer. They're now sitting within the 2-second window. You can just see the two battling it out in the background there. Saw the two coming together into turn 3 a little bit earlier on. In fact, sorry, it was just out of turn 2. Both of the two cars going off track, and looks as though they're still taking those alternative lines as we saw them come around. Kovkarl and Al Axen just trying to get the better of one another, and it looks as though Linga Bazinga's made a little move up the inside here. Looks as though he's got that one done nice and clean. Just moved his way up into the inside, controlled his braking, and it's third place for Linga Bazinga. Snarling Bongo falls back into fourth. He's definitely going to try and push back onto that one with 15 minutes remaining in this though. Two Dutch drivers fighting hard for their debut podium here. Of course, if you missed the start of this race, you did see a disconnection from Lecky. He was running in second, looks as though he had bags of pace. Disconnection from him. We also saw retirements from Old Smoky, and just trying to see who else it was. Can't really recall at the moment. No, Old Smoky went, just running through my list. And it's not standing out to me. However, Pro Fubby leads the race to Dan in second, Linga Bazinga in third, with Snarling Bongo now dropping down into fourth and about to be challenged by Al Axen in fifth. Kovkarl in sixth position with Chris 94 M Sport in seventh, Wardy in eighth, Porsche Man in ninth, Green Gaming in 10th, and Spankmeyer, after his pit stop, falls back into 11th position, around about 51 seconds off the back of Green Gaming at the moment. Have a look at what his lap times come out at this next time around though. Should definitely have the pace, Spankmeyer, to try and recover this one ever so slightly. We've got another train of cars formed up. Kovkarl at the back of them. Let's jump into the cockpit cam of Kovkarl. So this is Kovkarl with Al Axen ahead. Snarling Bongo's BMW, you can also see taking that right-hander, and then Linga Bazinga up ahead. And just see that BMW of Snarling Bongo getting a little bit looser there. Spitting out flames as he goes over to the inside, moves back over to the outside for the optimum line, and we see Kovkarl making a bit of a mess of it, runs very wide indeed, scrubs off a whole lot of momentum, whereas Al Axen is mowing down codes, hitting those apexes in his pursuit to try and swoop up Snarling Bongo's fourth place position. Let's see the battle of those two. Snarling Bongo is fighting hard to keep hold of that fourth place. Got his work cut out though. It's been an epic recovery drive from Al Axen. He found himself miles behind, dropped down to around about 8th or maybe even 9th position at one point. He managed to just give his head a wobble, straighten himself out, and then just head down, drive on. And is he going to have a little look up the inside here of Snarling Bongo? Not just yet, but he's almost hanging off the bumper of that BMW. Coming into the final sector, and they're definitely running pretty close. Kovkarl, meanwhile, has been able to regain some momentum as the two drivers ahead of him battle it out. Al Axen just running a little bit wide there. Not sure whether or not that was just a little bit of understeer from the front wheel drive Renault Megane. Let's see whether or not he can fall into the slipstream and maybe close up that gap ever so slightly. You can just see a couple of car lengths being lost, and that was just all momentum after scrubbing some speed off. 12 minutes remain here in race 1. Remember folks, as well, you'll be able to join our new co-commentator team in the form of Mick Toasty and DJ Redders live and direct on Thursday night for the GT1 Championship. I myself will be featuring in that, so please give me some support. I know I'm going to need it with the amount of talent that we have inside the GT1 Championship. You'll also find Linga Bazinga and Snarling Bongo inside that one as well as some other familiar faces within this race. But join our new commentary team for that. You're going to absolutely love it. 8 PM UK time, around about 3 in the afternoon if you're watching in Eastern Standard. Of course, please adjust to wherever you're watching us in the world. And remember to give a like button for that one if you enjoy the streams. Also, if you want to keep up with all of the goings on, remember to follow us on our social media channels available on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to get involved in the on-track action, or perhaps you're just looking for some competitive sim racing friends, either on Dirt Rally 2, our Dirt Rally 2 Championship has kicked off this week. You can get involved in that no matter what platform you play on, so PC, Xbox or PlayStation platforms, all are welcome. Or of course you can join us here for our regular PS4, PS5, Project Cars 2 Championships, which you're currently watching at the moment. Snarling Bongo now and Al Axon are really duking it out, going door to door here. Looks as though we might just see a position being taken from Al Axon if he can get across the inside. Doesn't look as though he can. He covers back into the back of Snarling Bongo. He is going to have a little cover up on the inside. Is he going to try a little late braking manoeuvre here? Thinks twice about it. And this has been an absolutely epic battle from all four drivers involved. Linga Bazinga, Snarling Bongo, Al Axon and Kovkarl. Also in the mix as well was Spankmeyer for a large proportion of this race. Didn't see what happened to him, but looks as though he had to make a rather lengthy pit stop for damage in the end on that one. But take nothing away from our current race leader, Pro Fubby, who was dominated completely. Looks as though Snarling Bongo, though, and Al Axon completely changing places on the regular here. It's absolutely anybody's. Let me know in the comments section, who do you think is going to be able to take this fourth place, or are we going to see maybe a little dash for third in the end? Is it going to be Snarling Bongo, Al Axon or Kovkarl? I'd love to know in the comment section what you think. I can't call it at all. Looks as though Snarling Bongo is just lost out on a little bit of pace, and the two come together. Snarling Bongo is going to come off worse out on that for sure, as Kovkarl moves up the inside, and Al Axon now into fourth place, Kovkarl into fifth, and Snarling Bongo drops down a position, just narrowly misses the rear end of Kovkarl as well. I can almost hear the teeth being grinding away by Snarling Bongo after a slight mistake coming together from the two. Just saw him bounced out towards the outside and momentum lost, and the two drivers moving on through. So Al Axon continues up into fourth place. He might well be able to stretch out a bit of a lead now. Who knows? He could well be able to challenge Linga Bazinga if he can return back to those 2:08 laps that we saw. 8 minutes remaining on this one, so around about 4, perhaps even 5 laps remaining as we continue on with lap 17 here. We will come back to this action, but let's have a look over with Dan at the moment, see how far away he is off the back. You can see him just moving over a back marker. I do believe that'll be Spankmeyer in 11th place that he's just overtaken. And you can see Pro Fubby out of sight into turn 1. Let's see whether or not yet we can just catch a glimpse of him coming through turns 2 and 3. 4.8 seconds the lead at the moment. Dan a little bit on the pace, it seems. Forget what the 2:12 is saying on there. My telemetry is telling me he actually managed to put in a 2:08.6 that last time around, compared to Pro Fubby's 2:09.1. So Dan is definitely dialing up the pace for a little bit of a last dash. Don't think it's going to be enough with only 7 3/4 minutes remaining, but we'll wait and see. Meanwhile, let's get back to the action between Al Axon, Kovkarl and Snarling Bongo. Al Axon in 4th position, Kovkarl in 5th, with Snarling dropping back now ever so slightly. 6th position, around about 6 tenths away from the back of Kovkarl. And just having a look at the sector time, so Al Axon putting in a 31.9 that last sector. Linga Bazinga meanwhile about 8 tenths slower, so a 32.79 from Linga Bazinga. And Linga Bazinga is definitely going to come under pressure from Al Axon. Al Axon looking like he's going to be breaking into the 2:08s, potentially even high 2:07s if he continues this sort of pace. That's the sort of sector times that we've seen in the qualification session. We're just about to see another one come in as Chris94 M Sport actually sets his green sector time of the race in 7th position, 32.7 from him. Just a little dip of the throttle there. I wonder if there was a bit of a slowdown penalty from Linga Bazinga. And you can see Al Axon now right up the trumpets of Linga Bazinga. Oh, bit of a cut. In fact, looks as though I've actually been disconnected, ladies and gents. So definitely suffering with some server issues here. Do beg your pardon for this. It's we'll try and get back into the race, but unfortunately, looks as though the the Project Cars 2 servers are proving very, very troublesome indeed this evening. Just bear with me. Let me see if I can get anybody that is currently sat in the pit lane to send me over an invite, just so that we can check out the final goings on in this race. So as things standard, it was Pro Fubby leading the race to Dan in second, Linga Bazinga in third, with Al Axon chasing him down in fourth position. Kovkar was in fifth. He had around about half a second lead to Snarling Bongo. Chris 94 M Sport was making pace, but he was miles away from the rest of the drivers in seventh position. Wardy was in eighth, with Porsche Man in ninth, Green Gaming in 10th, Spankmeyer in 11th. Making up the back of that grid, just trying to get myself back into the lobby just so I can catch the end of this race. But unfortunately, it looks as though we might be done. Just looking at my watch now, we had enough of the race for me to try and get back in. It just depends whether or not we've got anybody sat within the pit lane. And so far, it's looking quite bleak, unfortunately, ladies and gents. Of course, you will be able to find out the results. We'll make sure that they are posted in some form on our social media channel. We'll also give you the latest standings and events. Just having a little look over to some of the drivers that I am aware of on their YouTube channels, just to see whether or not I can maybe get a glimpse of what is currently going on, just in case they are live streaming the event. Doesn't look as though we're in for any luck right now. I will try and keep you posted, just in case I manage to get any invites to get back into this lobby. It's definitely a first for me here at Flux Motorsport. Never had this happen before in the commentary box, but we did see disconnections from Lecky, potentially disconnections as well from some of the other drivers. Always unfortunate to happen. Definitely unfortunate from you at home that are tuned into this one when it happens to the commentator as well. But it does look as though I'm not going to be able to get back into this one, unfortunately, ladies and gents. As mentioned, we will post up the results of the race into our social media channel as soon as we can get them available. We will also update the standings from the event as well. But unfortunately, I think that is all that we can bring you here. It's been an epic race up until our stream was cut loose. We will, of course, see you again for hopefully a much less dramatic finish than what we've had here in the GT1 Championship. That is live Thursday evening from 8 o'clock UK time, which is 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Join McToasty and DJ Redders in the booth for that one. It's a fantastic commentary pairing. I really can't wait to hear it back myself, and you should really make sure that you tune into it. If you want to make sure that you don't miss it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we will promise to try and bring you full streams for the remainder of the season. And of course, if you want to make sure that you don't miss anything at all, be sure to hit that bell icon to get notifications of when we go live. I've been Murphy. Unfortunately, this has been a rather anticlimactic end to what has been a very thrilling race here in round one of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. But unfortunately, we will see you again next week at the Red Bull Ring National Circuit, Other than that, that is all from me. Take care of yourselves and enjoy the week ahead. Good evening.